welcome to this video on UFC 311 coming up in the new year in January in a few days time now. So first fight, well, first not fight card, but first numbered card of the year, and it's starting off with a quite a good one, to be honest. A quite stacked card, I'd say. A quite one people want to see, fighters people want to see, people who, you know, we think, you know, are entertaining, which is good, and hope that continues forward with the number cards and other events that UFC put on in 25. Let me know what you think of the card in the comments down below. But getting into the first fight, Kevin Holland versus Dorida. Obviously, Holland coming off, not really getting up to the heights where he probably wanted to, going into trying to get a championship fight, as everyone is who gets into the top 10, thinking it will be a matter of time. Dorida obviously coming into the UFC, last fight getting a win on his debut. I do think it's going to be a lot harder. Kevin Holland is a much better fighter. It's at least one or two levels up from what he's fought in the UFC on his debut. And I think also he's had losses outside the organisation, which it's very hard to go, well, you're here, you're there. UFC is clearly the highest level of MMA as a complete. There are some outliers where you could say, look, they can fight, they could be top 5, they could be champion, but UFC as a whole really develops the largest amount of talent out of any of them, and they sort of bring together that talent to really form in most divisions. You know, their top 5 is the best top 5 in the world. So some outliers could creep into that, but overall, is the UFC is the fighters who really are considered the best in the world. And I do think that can be a problem with Kevin Holland being a great fighter in the UFC, very, very high level. There really has to really show a very top game to be in, and to come in with losses, quite a few losses outside the organisation not that long ago in his record, coming in winning in his debut in the UFC, and then where do you go from there? You go straight for a Kevin Holland. I think it's a stretch. It's a push up the division very quickly, and probably not the best idea. I think Dorida really needs some lower level opponents to see where he's at. I think one good win in a debut doesn't mean you chuck him straight to a Kevin Holland. I think that's a big step up. And look, if he does it, look, the rewards are big, but also when you lose against Kevin Holland, where do you go from there? It's very tough to go, well, I'm building up to something. You lose against Kevin Holland, sort of puts you in a position where we sort of know where you're at then, and it's going to be a hard time to get up to top of the division if you want to be a world champion. So I think it's going to knock the confidence off Dorida if he does lose, which can be bad. I don't see him then. Look, it's going to be a struggle in his next fight to even hit that level again. So it's tough. I do think it's not a great matchup for Dorida in his second fight. I think he needs a bit of a build-up fight more than a Kevin Holland. I think Kevin Holland's throwing him straight into the deep end, hoping he swims, and I don't think he will swim. I think Kevin Holland wins. He's got so much experience in the UFC, for the top guys in the UFC. Dorida really, losses in one championship. Yes, won his debut, but Kevin Holland's a different kettle of fish, and I do think he's got the experience to go, look, I'm going to beat you here. And look, if Dorida wins, look, that's straight near top 10 material straight off the bat. And look, that's how you get a championship fight within the next 1 or 2 years, I'd think, for Dorida. But look, let's see. I think Holland's going to win this with his experience in the UFC, and we know he's top, a good level in that division as well. Dariush against Moicano. So great fight. Obviously, Moicano coming off some great wins, great momentum behind him. Great win streak. Dariush coming off losses against both top 3 opponents in the division. Obviously, losing against Tsarukyan and Oliveira, which was not good. But I think currently definitely top 7, if not higher, probably top 5. Moicano's trying to get into that. He's trying to get into that top 5 with this fight. I think an amazing run out last time for Moicano against Saint Denis. Basically was waiting in that second round to go, look, this guy is, I don't need to rush in. I know the damage I did in round 1 was enough, and I can let him throw, and let's see how it goes. I don't need to get into a fight with Saint Denis to just throw hands and hooks and let's see who comes out. It's not about that. It's about picking your shots, getting Saint Denis to the ground, doing great damage, and then realizing that them injuries are set there. I just need to poke at them, and look, that's how I win the fight. I won round 1. Let's not lose round 2. Let's not get damaged in round 2, and then look, if I need to do something in round 3, I can do something in round 3, but that swelling's only getting worse. I think it was an incredible performance, really professional performance, really staying in it and saying, look, I've got control of this fight throughout majority of that fight last time out. Look, both same age, but I think both good in both places. Dariush has obviously got to that top level. Moicano's coming up into that level where Dariush has been fighting at top 3 opponents. Both good stand-up, both good on the ground as well. And basically both same reach. So, look, there's no real attributes I can really speak about that. Look, but you got to look at their fights. I think confidence in Moicano's game is causing him to win in emphatic fashion currently, especially against Saint Denis. And low confidence Moicano doesn't go out and do that, I don't believe. And I do think Dariush is coming off a few losses with that top 3, and that's high level, but I don't think you can say that, look, Moicano's not that much lower, and losing against them guys and getting beaten definitively to then be pushed back and go, well, I've got to build myself back up again. It's tough. Not many fighters have really successfully done it and went for a championship fight again. Once they get there, it's very hard. It takes it takes a long time, and they do suffer losses throughout that period afterwards. So I do think Moicano's confidence will help him. I do think it's a close fight still, though. But I think it just gives Moicano that edge in this fight. I think he does get a decision. Over 3 rounds, I think Dariush is good enough to stay out of danger enough, and I mean that as in, look, he's not going to get absolutely wiped out on the feet. He's not going to get absolutely wiped out, I'm pretty sure, on the ground. And I think it's a decision. I think Moicano wins it probably 3 rounds or 2 rounds to him. Being smart will be the major thing I think we'll see in this fight. I think he stays smart. I think some rounds he stays on the outside, frustrates Dariush to then allow him a great combo which wins him the rounds, or gets him on the ground and gets him top position for a few minutes. So I think that's the key from Moicano to win. On to the next fight of Yuri Prochazka versus Jamal Hill. Obviously a very close fight, I believe. Both lost to Pereira. Now really looking at who's going to go back up and face Pereira next is the key thing after his fight against Ankalaev coming up next, I believe. I think that's confirmed. And this person will likely face Pereira next. So I think that's the key thing. I think Prochazka or Hill, whoever wins now, goes on to face Pereira next against Ankalaev. Unless Ankalaev and Pereira make it a very close fight, that can happen, and then that changes it up. But I do think this person's really in that title contention for another title fight next after this fight. I think Hill is very good. I think Prochazka is very good as well. And really, I think that's the close fight of it. I think Prochazka is good standing up. I think he's good on the ground, and I think that can be a problem. I think he's actually better on the ground than Hill is. I think Hill is very good in the sometimes in the clinch situation when he has his back against the fence. It's staying up and actually getting some damage off with knees and things. But I think Prochazka is also a southpaw fighter, great switching it up. And I do think he's just going to catch someone with something. I think, look, he's coming back off a loss against Pereira, which wasn't good. But I think he's got great pressure and great ability on the ground, which he can use. I think against a Hill, I don't think Hill's going to absolutely dominate him on the feet like a Pereira would, to stop him going for them takedowns and actually getting one. And that could be key in a 3-round fight. And that's the key thing here, is that it's a 3-round fight. Prochaska gets you down for 1 round. You've got to win the other 2. So I think could cause Hill to have to rush in or try and get something out of it. And Prochaska just starts piecing them up again and getting out of there. I think Prochaska's a very technical fighter, a very tricky fighter on the feet, which could cause Hill some problems. Look, either fighter, I think they're very close. It's a very close fight, but I do give it to Prochaska by decision. Again, over 3 rounds, I don't see them getting each other out there, even though at that heavier weight, I think Prochaska's going to have a good deal of work on the ground if he is to win. And I don't think Hill can get Prochaska out there, to be honest, on the feet. On to the next fight, which is the first title fight of the year. Dvalishvili versus Umar Nurmagomedov. Umar coming on a good run. Dvalishvili getting that win against Sean O'Malley last time to win the championship. Look, it's a 5-rounder. Umar hasn't done many of those. He's probably trained for them for sure, but I don't think he's done any in the UFC. And the championship fight, he's done none of those. This is his first championship fight under the big lights of that championship fight. Look, this is your moment. This is your chance to win the title. And really, who do I think is going to win? I think Umar wins it. I think a lot of people have that opinion. I think he's great on the feet, and I think his ground game at least will be enough to stay standing up, and I think that's key. Dvalishvili may be good on the ground, but I think Umar's good enough to stay on the feet at least until he gets some great damage off, which compromises Dvalishvili in the 5 rounds. I think that's key. I think he needs to compromise him on the feet before he gets taken down. Umar can, cancel him out on the ground. I think that's the key thing Umar's going to try and do. I don't think he's going to go for offense and try and get something off on the ground. I think it's too risky against Dvalishvili. I think it's very tough. It's a place where you don't know you're better. I think on the feet, Umar knows he's better standing up and striking with Dvalishvili, which I think as well. Which I think is where he needs to keep it. He needs to keep at range, jabbing, getting them strikes off and not getting compromised by a clinch or a takedown opportunity, because he can nullify it, and I fully expect he will. Can cause him to be on top though when Dvalishvili just gets a few shots off, and that's happening all round. He'll win the round, he's on top. And on a 5-round fight, you don't want to be rushing in for stuff and trying to get something out there and get a round back, because sooner or later your gas tank's out there. 5 rounds, Dvalishvili can go all 5. So you need to make sure you've got that ability to conserve enough for the later rounds if needed. I think he's got a good team behind him, and obviously he's gonna have that great wrestling that we've seen. And I think that's enough to keep him standing. I think that's the key. I don't think he should use it offensively in this fight. I think it just throws up too many dangers from Dvalishvili getting on top or doing something off the bottom to then actually, I want to be here. I've lost a round because I tried to be better than him. It's something I know he's good at, and it's just a bit of an ego thing, where actually I think if he uses it to stay standing and piecing him up on the feet, I think that's a key thing he can do. And I think Umar gets it done by KO TKO. I think he hurts him. I think he gets taken down. I think that happens in the fight, but I think he gets back up and continues. And I think over the 5 rounds, some point, probably later on, gets the KO TKO. Once he's sort of felt Dvalishvili be on the ground with him as well, managed to keep stuff secure enough to frustrate Dvalishvili, and he just goes through and gets caught. On to the main event. Another title fight, obviously, Islam Makhachev versus Tsarukyan, obviously coming off a Oliveira win to get this title shot. Makhachev obviously coming off a great streak of championship defences, pretty much defending against pretty much everyone in that division except Tsarukyan at this point. There's not really any people in the top 5 or so that I really think, or anyone else who really goes up to the championship level who he hasn't had a fight with already and defeated, who I think could fight him next. I think that's tough for the UFC. I think they've got to find him an opponent, but I'm sure they will. Tsarukyan done well to get to this point and to get up to a Makhachev. But I think to beat a Makhachev, you need to be 1 to 2 levels at least higher than what like an Oliveira is, like a Poirier is. You know, maybe they're not on the same level, but an Oliveira at least. That you need that 1 or 2 levels above an Oliveira to go, look, I can beat Oliveira, but I know I need to make this look quite easy so I can really challenge a Makhachev. And I don't think Tsarukyan did that. I think Tsarukyan showed that actually got caught in some bad places on the ground, especially against Oliveira. Yes, he may have won, but he got caught in, I think, a guillotine it was, and it was in tight and all these things, and it was in there for a while. He manages to get out, but it's scary positions where, look, against a Makhachev, he might not do a guillotine, that might not be his submission of choice, but he ain't going to let you go. He's gonna keep you there, and he's going to do other things. And look, the strength is tremendous. I don't see how a Tsarukyan who left things open and gaps shown against an Oliveira to beat a Makhachev at the height and the confidence of Makhachev is currently. I don't see it happening. I think Oliveira had good success in that fight on the ground, and that was sometimes off the bottom, but he did get up as well, and he did do a good few things, Oliveira. And look, he is good on the ground. Oliveira's no slouch on the ground, but I think it's scary when you see what Makhachev can do to someone like Oliveira. And I think the stand-up, I think also Makhachev is good enough on the stand-up where I don't think Tsarukyan's going to get away with some of the stuff he did that Oliveira fight. On the stand-up, I think it's going to be tough. I think there's going to be a mismatch early seen between a Makhachev really dominating the striking, and then you see a Tsarukyan have to rush in for these takedowns. Tsarukyan's going to get, look, he could be turned, he could be caught, he could be turned into Makhachev being on top and he starts taking stuff from a top mount. I think it's tough for Tsarukyan to win this. I think it's very tough. I don't think he showed that extra 1 or 2 levels where I actually believe he's going to get anywhere close to beating a Makhachev. And I think that's sad. I think, look, he may come off this fight and go, well, I've fought a Makhachev now. I know what that level is. Let's aim for that now and really come back and redevelop himself. But I think at current, the Tsarukyan we've seen isn't a strong enough fighter against, look, one of the best we've ever seen at lightweight in a Makhachev. So I think Makhachev gets this done. And I think it's Tsarukyan's going to have to go back and reinvent himself slightly and fight some of these top 3 guys, really learn, really craft himself in the gym to really face look, the ultimate goal is not fight for fight anymore. I think for Tsarukyan, I think it is to go, look, I may be training for this guy in the top 3, but the ultimate aim, which I need to be aiming for every day, is to beat a Makhachev, and that's what he needs to train to do, because I think it's going to take that level of dedication to actually get anywhere close to Makhachev at his current level. I think he's, like I said before, I think he's one of the best we've ever seen at lightweight. I think he is. I think he could be doing this for a while now. I don't see many people currently in that lightweight division that are coming up that actually could provide a problem for a Makhachev. I think it's tough. I think you've got certain people coming in, but they're going to have to show a lot, like against an Oliveira, against someone like that, in that top 3 before they go for a championship fight and really show, look, they are 1 to 2 levels above. And for sure, Tsarukyan, I don't think has done that. I could be wrong, but I think Makhachev gets this done by KO TKO. Please let me know what you think in the comments down below. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.